I was on a road trip heading to my friend Jack's cabin for a weekend of snowboarding. At that time, I was driving my Ford on that night. In the bed of the truck, I had all my snowboarding gear. It was around 10 p.m., and I was about 45 minutes away from my friend's cabin. The roads were dark, covered in snow, and there were hardly any other cars around. A few weeks ago, I got my truck fixed by the mechanic. That truck always gave me trouble, and that night was no different. At the worst time on a quiet, dark road, my engine suddenly started overheating, going all the way into the red zone. I slowed down, pulled over to the side, and waited for it to cool down. I tried getting back on the road slowly, but even at a low speed, the needle went back up to the red and the engine overheated again. I had to pull over and turn off the truck. I tried looking under the hood to figure out the problem, but it was too dark in the snow. I had to call Jack for help. I was driving on this road, and guess what? My phone signal disappeared. I couldn't even make a call for help. I felt stuck. I went back into my truck, started it again, and decided to wait inside, hoping the heat wouldn't be too much. Surprisingly, the truck didn't overheat while idling. I tried driving once more, but the same problem occurred. So I had to wait for about 10 minutes until finally, a car passed by. I turned on my hazard lights, opened the door, and waved my arms. The car stopped. I was relieved. I thanked the driver for stopping and asked if I could borrow his phone. I told the guy, "My truck is overheating and I can't drive it anymore." He asked if I was alone, and after a moment I said, "Yeah." Then he handed me his cell phone. It seemed like he knew the area because he had good signal. I called my friend, and he answered. I explained my situation, and he advised me to contact a specific towing company nearby. Jack said he would come to pick me up. I shared my exact location with him, and he said he was on his way. After that, I called the towing company my friend recommended and asked for help. The guy in the car kept an eye on me during both calls. I tried not to glance back at him, though. After talking on the phone, I gave the guy his phone back and said thanks. He replied with a "You're welcome," rolled up his car window, and drove away on the snowy road into the dark. I kept an eye on his taillights until they vanished completely. I found myself alone once more. I hopped back into my parked truck to enjoy the warmth. Curious about how dark it was, I turned off the headlights for a moment. I couldn't see anything through the windows. It was pitch black. Staying in the truck, I had to pass the time without an internet connection, so I played games on my phone for about 20 minutes. Suddenly, there was a loud bang on my passenger side window. I was startled, and as I looked over, I could barely make out a person. The darkness outside and the truck's headlights didn't provide much visibility. I heard a man's voice desperately asking for help. He kept shouting at me to open the door because he was freezing. I could hear him attempting to open the door himself, but it was locked. I used my flashlight to see outside through the window, but it didn't provide much visibility. All I could make out was someone in a large black coat with the hood pulled over their head. I shouted back, asking, "What's wrong?" The mysterious man explained that he was lost and stranded and needed shelter from the cold. I felt uneasy and tried to think of questions to make sure he wasn't a threat before opening the door. Before I could come up with anything, he started aggressively trying to force the locked door open and began banging on the glass even harder, still pleading for help. In the middle of everything happening, I followed my instincts. I pushed the truck into gear, and the guy caught on, hitting the window even harder, trying to break it. I drove onto the road, speeding up to 30 miles per hour, even though I knew it was probably causing more damage to the already overheating engine. Then, I saw something unexpected that made my heart race. When I reached the top of the hill, I saw the reflection of taillights approaching on the side of the road. As I passed a parked car, I realized it was the same car from earlier, the one the guy had been driving. I pressed the brakes and rolled down the window to check if the man was inside the car, but there was no one there. It looked like the car was vacant. Glancing behind the vehicle for a moment, I noticed footprints in the snow illuminated by my taillights. It hit me that the person who had been banging on my window was the one leaving those footprints, possibly attempting to deceive me into opening the door for who knows what reason. Despite being aware that I might be damaging the truck's engine, I continued driving, not caring about it at that moment. A little later, I noticed headlights coming from the opposite direction, so I pulled over. I got really excited when I saw it was the tow truck. I flashed my lights, and the driver pulled over too. When he got out of the truck, I explained what had happened. He made a joke about being there at the right time and then asked if the other guy had a weapon. I couldn't tell, so I said, I didn't know. The tow truck driver said, "Okay, let's do this quickly then." It took about 10 minutes for him to hook up the truck, and during that time, the car never passed by us. It's possible the driver turned around and went the other way to avoid any trouble. I borrowed the tow truck driver's phone to call my friend once more. I asked him to meet us directly at the body shop. Long story short, Jack and I continued with our snowboarding plans that weekend. The body shop fixed the broken water pump in my truck, which was causing it to overheat. I ended up selling that truck a few weeks later. I'm relieved that I didn't roll down my window or unlock the doors when that man attempted to get into my car. In that situation, things could have gone really wrong, and nobody would have known who was responsible. What are your thoughts about this story? I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to our channel and check out one of these videos to help the channel grow. See you next time around. Take care.